Hey everybody, Gary Edelman, American Battlefield Trust, and I'm standing in one of my favorite rooms in Washington, D.C., and I'm here to talk about my favorite thing, battlefields. We got 3 battlefields that we want to talk to you about today. It's Brandywine, it is Newtown, and it is Sackets Harbor. 2 different wars, multiple states. We'll get into that a little bit, but we're really going to focus on Brandywine because it's the largest of the battles, and it really is in need of dire need of preservation. And I'm here with Andrew Outen. He's the Historical Programs Manager, let me see if I can get this, at the American Revolution Institute of the Society of Cincinnati. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But first, thanks for having us, Andrew.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for the invite.
Good, good. So poor Andrew here. I'm going to try to hit you with rapid fire questions and see if you can answer them in reasonably quick time. And we'll talk about Brandywine first. Cool?
Absolutely.
All right, good, good. So Philadelphia is sort of important, isn't it?
Absolutely. At that time, it was obviously the colonial capital. That's where the seat of Congress is, the birthplace of independence, and it was a major target for General Howe and the Crown Forces.
And what's George Washington doing there in September of 1777?
So General Howe is in New York in the early summer months of 1777, and Washington is trying to anticipate his next move. So Howe boards roughly about 260 ships with 18,000 soldiers and sails south to the Chesapeake Bay. So Washington is coming down to cut off Howe's approach. The intended target is Philadelphia at this time. Washington knows this, and he is trying to cut off that avenue of approach to gain access to the colonial capital.
And George Washington takes position along the bank of a creek, right?
Yes, obviously the Brandywine Creek, which runs right into the Delaware River. And Washington knows that this is General Howe's only avenue of approach with the way he's taken from Maryland and into Delaware and into Pennsylvania. So this is his only way to access the colonial capital.
Okay, good. So he's trying to guard the capital with his screening movements.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. And this Brandywine River offers the perfect natural defense for him.
There are several bridges across the Brandywine, right?
Not at that time. So at that time, the only crossing point or something that resembled a bridge was John Chadd's Ferry at Chadd's Ford. All the other crossing points or fords were basically just shallow points in the river to cross. And Washington comes into the area 2 days before the battle, and he has plenty of time to do some scouting of the area, gain intelligence of the region, but unfortunately he only guards the majority of them and leaves 2 northern fords unguarded.
And Washington is sort of, covering Chadd's Ford and several of these other fords as well, but the British are going to oblige him and send a force toward Chadd's Ford, but they're really moving around elsewhere.
Correct. So they send a small diversionary force under the Lieutenant General Wilhelm von Kniphausen, roughly 6,000 soldiers, and this is to create a feint. Meanwhile, General Howe, Charles Cornwallis, they are marching about 15 miles north to get to those 2 northern fords to get around Washington's main defenses.
Man, you really have, it's like all the all-stars. You got Howe, you got Cornwallis, Washington, Greene. This is really an all-star sort of thing, but the British are going to get the upper hand once they cross at those upper fords.
Correct. So they are able to march across these 2 northern fords unopposed, and Washington's head spinning all morning long with this diversionary feint that's across the river at him. He doesn't know if that's the entire army there across from him, and at this time he's really starting to send his cavalry officers, his scouts up and down the countryside to really see what's going on.
Okay, and then so when this gets real and suddenly a massive British force arrives on beyond Washington's right flank, how do you characterize Washington's leadership at that point in a military sense?
Washington was quick to act, and it's in part because he had an hour window to work with. General Howe stopped to refresh his army. They had been marching in the searing September heat all day, and they stop at a location known as Osborne Hill. So Washington takes full advantage of this hour window, and he dispatches 3 divisions to the north to get in front of the British from before they are completely enveloped. So they make a successful and a shockingly effective stand on top of Birmingham Hill, and this is only going to last for about an hour to an hour and a half. Meanwhile, Kniphausen hears the guns coming from the north, and that's his cue to cross. So now Washington's being pressed from the north and the west, and unfortunately, the Americans are just overwhelmed. They got their act together, but just not well enough.
I wouldn't call it a Pyrrhic victory, but the Americans, left with a feather in their cap.
Absolutely. So even though this was considered a major defeat in the minds of some contemporaries, Washington's army was still intact at the end of the day. He was able to withdraw his men in an orderly fashion from the field, and that's in part from an effective stand of rearguard defense led by Nathaniel Greene. Without Greene's stand, the army wouldn't have made it, I don't think.
Okay, so first of all, the Trust has already preserved some land at Brandywine. A few key tracts. I think you helped us to preserve one of them.
Absolutely. That was right in the heart of Dilworth town and just to the south of that. So that was, if you can just imagine the Americans retreating across Birmingham Hill, that went right across those parcels of land.
Good, good. And then let's talk about this 15-acre parcel. It's a little closer to Chadds Ford, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You are right in the heart of Chadds Ford at that point.
Now, you guys have at least one especially cool Brandywine map downstairs.
Yes, so that was produced by William Faden, a well-known cartographer who is known for producing hundreds of maps, almost hundreds of maps, but the most maps relating to the American Revolution, yes.
Very cool. And does the tract that we're trying to preserve appear in the scope of this map?
Certainly does. If you look very closely, you can make out the exact parcel that you are trying to preserve on the map.
Good, good. And why is it important to preserve this acreage?
So this is out of the 35,000 acre battlefield landscape that encompasses the Battle of Brandywine. This 15-acre parcel is right in the heart of the action. You see the Americans building up their defensive works the 2 days before the battle. You see the effective stand in the morning against Kniphausen's soldiers and his column. And then you see Wayne's men retreating across this parcel in the later hours in the later part of the battle. And so this parcel is right in the heat of everything that encompassed Brandywine.
Great. And, and let me just say that this is one of those things where we have, I believe, a just about 28-to-1 match. And we've got 3 battlefields involved here, so this would be key. This is a big puzzle we're trying to put together at Brandywine, and the land there is not cheap, but because of this match, we don't need all that much money to make this happen. Now, before we move on from Brandywine, I'm just curious about your take on this. I've heard the Brooklyn people say that's the largest battle, and I hear the Brandywine people say that's the largest battle, and some say largest force, and some say most casualties. How do you come down on this?
So, when I was at Brandywine, we got this a lot. So, we do have nearly 30,000 soldiers, plus camp followers and other people that are associated with both armies, which is nearing the population of Philadelphia. So it was a large force. But we like to call it the largest single-day land battle of the American Revolution, not just in terms of soldiers, but in the landscape as well. It is a massive land area to travel if you're trying to get the entire picture of the battle itself.
Good, and I think that really highlights our challenge here in this acreage. And I want to get back to you and talk a little bit about the Society of the Cincinnati and the American Revolution Institute. But just real quick, we have 2 other opportunities, both larger tracts. One's at Newtown, New York, a confusing fight where the actual battle was most brutal before the battle as the Continental force is going up against Iroquois Indians, and then you're going to have sort of some loyalists join them, and they're going to fight at Newtown. And man, this is right where the Americans didn't fall for the Iroquois trap, where they went to outflank them instead. And this is that key tract up there. And at Sackets Harbor, New York, a War of 1812 fight, even further up in New York on the lake, you're going to have an intense fight where the British come ashore. They have everything to win, and then the Americans put up a spirited fight there in this war. And we've saved the island called Horse Island. We've saved other tracts around it, and now this is sort of almost a connector. And if you get this one and one more, these battles aren't that big. It's not like Brandywine. You're going to see that we really have a nice battlefield park there. And if you're able to lend us your support to the right level, make sure you click the link associated with this post. We're going to send you a copy of our battle maps of the American Revolution. We got Brandywine, we got Saratoga, we got Bunker Hill, we got all the maps of the main battles of the American Revolution, and we think you'll enjoy. So let's get back to you. So we're standing in this beautiful room. I believe we're staying in Anderson House. Tell me first about the Society of the Cincinnati in 3 sentences or less.
So the Society of the Cincinnati was founded in 1783 by officers of the Continental Army. So it was essentially just a way for them to maintain their brotherhood. They just went through an 8-year-long conflict together, and this was a way to perpetuate the memory of that conflict that they just went through.
And I think it's the oldest fraternal organization?
Yes, the nation's oldest patriotic organization.
Good, good. And you also, it's international because, of course, we have the French.
We have the French, absolutely. French officers were eligible for membership following the American Revolution.
Good, good. And I'm really happy that the Society has this American Revolution Institute. What's that?
So that is essentially the educational arm of the Society of the Cincinnati. It was founded a decade ago, and we put on historical programs that are free to the public. We have educational resources that we send nationwide to various classrooms that benefit teachers, students, scholars alike.
Here's your chance. Is there something cool coming up that you want to tell our viewers about this summer?
We have a lot going on. We have tons of programming coming out this summer and all year round. So we encourage you to go to our website, AmericanRevolutionInstitute.org/events, to check them out, and all of the other resources that we have available on our website.
Great to be with you. Thank you all for watching. When you come to DC, check out Anderson House. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Make sure you share this with your friends. And thanks so much for all your support of battlefield preservation and education.
Hello, this is Trace Atkins. To stay up to date on all the latest and coolest videos, please subscribe to the Trust YouTube channel. Preserve, educate, inspire.